Hello and welcome to Investing Confidential. As you saw in the title, I'm going to talk today about Mexico and the opportunities there and why Mexico is winning, and they are winning. Just a quick mention, obviously, from yesterday, today we have a completely different stock market, but it doesn't matter. I mean, people are constantly quoting, looking at the stock market every day, 1,000 points down, 500 points up, and trying to make, you know, trying to look at things not in the correct way. Okay, the stock market is irrelevant. I've been telling you that, especially the indexes, right? If you want to point out specific stocks, I'll listen to you. But as far as these indexes, they're meaningless. They're no longer what they used to be, which was leading indicators. They've been taken over by derivatives in Wall Street, so they don't mean anything. When you could, as a derivative broker, when you can buy 10 stocks and replicate an index with 500 in it, the index is irrelevant. And that's basically what's happening. So market up today. Obviously, if you watched my video yesterday, the day before, I told you the highest put buying in history. In history. So there was going to be a rally. End of story. All right. Forget about the U.S. Let's talk about Mexico. Why Mexico is winning? Well, I mean, it comes down to really this. I think the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is playing the long game with Trump. She's playing it perfectly. Just a little history. She came into office in October of last year, and most of the Mexican business elite and foreign investors were very concerned that she was going to be another AMLO. And AMLO was the former president who was a disaster. I don't even know if he's right or left. Nobody knows. He did nothing for his tenure except allowed the cartels to basically run the country. So the guy's a nightmare. And everyone thought that she was going to be a carbon copy because she's in the same party. And basically, he has theoretically, he's pulling her strings. Well, bottom line is that's not the case. Okay, she's smart, educated in the U.S., is an independent thinker, and as I said before, she's playing the long game with Trump. She's embracing, not embracing Trump, but she's not folding, she's not fighting. Like, I mean, Canada, the EU, and China. I mean, the rhetoric that comes out of these people, like China saying yesterday they're gonna fight to the end. I mean, China's economy is in the dirt. Let's be honest, it's in absolute dirt, and they got, no matter what anyone thinks, do some research on China. And I'll do another video on China, which I've done before. The market's rebounded in China, but the economy's in the dirt. They're in no condition to fight a trade war. Okay, bottom line. So going back to Mexico, I mean, little things, okay, little things. She spoke to Trump in English during their conversations. She speaks to all of the officials, including here Kristi Noem and others, in English. In the past, AMLO never spoke English, even though he was fluent in English. He used an interpreter. These talks with Trump lasted for hours and hours. Apparently, they were just brutal. Trump hated to talk to him because of that. But she's taken a different tone. And remember this, folks, the issue today with, this is why Kristi Noem was meeting with Claudia Sheinbaum, is not about trade per se, but more about security, right? Security of the border. Okay, that's the most important thing. The trade stuff, the tariff stuff is, again, as I tell you, I'm going to say this again, it's a sideshow. Okay, because at the end of the day, what Trump wanted and what they gave was very simple: 10,000 troops sent to the border. Allow the U.S. military to come in and do exercises in quotation marks. Okay, quietly, they are pounding the cartels quietly, eliminating them piece by piece. This is what happened in Colombia. Okay, it was a black ops war, slowly but surely eliminating one by one all of these animals, because they are animals. Let's face it. They indiscriminately chop people's heads. These people are animals, and they're being eliminated quietly. So this was a security issue. But at the end of the day, as far as trade is concerned, why is Mexico winning? Well, simply because the USMCA is intact. Okay? And unlike the other allies, Mexico already has exemptions from these reciprocal tariffs. It's called USMCA. Now, there are certain things outside of that that are, let's say, in the non-compliant MCA, that there's 25% duties or whatever. There's things, some auto parts and steel, but they've been in place for a while. And so the most aggressive penalties that everyone else is facing have been avoided by Mexico. And despite obviously a lot of talk about the auto industry, the auto companies in Mexico, like Mercedes, etc., they're staying the course. Okay, they're not leaving. And they're staying the course because Claudia Sheinbaum has reached out to them, spoken to them. And they obviously are big employers in Mexico. And it's working. Okay, it's working. So, I mean, another little anecdote, when Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, I mean, Sheinbaum didn't blink. She said, she didn't try to use a war of words. Basically, what she basically did was, she basically told AJ there are parts of the Gulf of Mexico that are in the U.S. and maybe they should be renamed to Mexico America or Gulf of Mexico. But that's as far as it went. Okay, it didn't go any farther than that. She's smart. She knows Mexico is very, very linked to the U.S. and the U.S. can be very helpful to her politically, getting her out of the shadows of this maniac AMLO who's old and who's probably going to die within 3 years anyway. It doesn't matter. But the left-wing party that he's controls doesn't really have the effects that a lot of the so-called experts thought that they would have on her. So she's negotiating that as well. And look, the bottom line is, because of all this, she's incredibly popular. I mean, and at the end of the day, not only is she popular with the common people, she's becoming more popular with the, let's say, business elite, who really hated her in the beginning, thought she was going to be a nightmare. So today it stands that this is consumer confidence, right? I mean, it's amazing. And it's holding up. It's come off a little bit, but and again, because of the media, it's come off. But Mexican consumer confidence is holding up very strong, and it continues to be strong. And the bottom line also is that if you look at the popularity, her approval rating is massive. It's 83%. To put that in perspective, folks, this is higher than Modi. This is the highest approval rating of any president in the world. Let me repeat that. This is the highest approval rating of any president in the world. Okay? In the world. So Mexico is winning. Okay? And, we talk about auto industry. I'm going to give you, again, these are facts. Mexico vehicle production, which you'd think would be falling off a cliff, is rebounding. Mexico vehicle exports are rebounding. And this is, again, very, very positive and proves that whatever she's doing the right thing. She's not fighting it out like that idiot in Canada in the press. I mean, he's ex-Goldman Sachs globalist. He is a Wall Street guy. He's a puppet to the Wall Street people. She is the complete opposite. Okay, nothing to do with Wall Street. Claudia Sheinbaum is her own person, and again, proof is in the pudding with uh, her approval rating and what's going on in the one of the most important industries in the world, especially between Mexico and the U.S. auto industry. So let's go to the stock. Let's go to the markets now. So let's look at uh, Mexico. I'm using the ETFs for put everything in dollar terms versus the U.S. This is year to date. Okay, so year to date, U.S. market is down quite substantially. Mexico's up. Okay, now that's a big gap here. But the question really is, can it continue? And I say yes, because over a 1 year basis, the U.S. is still massively outperforming Mexico. Okay, massively outperforming Mexico. So year to date, there's still more to come. What I'm saying is, so the Mexico trade is intact, and it continues to be intact. So here's a 5 year chart of the Mexican peso. So obviously, Mexican peso is much weaker than it was in the end of 2014 or the middle of 2014. Some of that is the result of the election, and the other is obviously Trump tariffs. But we're not seeing that spike, okay? We're not seeing the spike up to like 25, 23, 24, 25, which a lot of so-called Wall Street experts predicted, as we saw towards the end of COVID. But again, the Mexican currency holding very well at a good level. Mexico stock index versus emerging markets. This is a 1 year chart. Again, Mexico underperforming, and that EM index includes China, by the way. So again, good opportunity to buy Mexico and short the rest of emerging markets. I think that's a pretty good trade as well. Here's Mexico versus China, 1 year chart. Again, China outperforming. An opportunity there. I think Mexico is going to trounce China performance-wise over the next 3 years. Very good chart there. And just to give you, I'm not going to talk a little bit about individual stocks, but just two stocks in particular that are very interesting here. This is Fear Prologis. Prologis is a U.S. company. You can buy Prologis as a proxy. This is their Mexican subsidiary. These guys build the plants. These guys build warehouses just for Google and places like that. This is where the opportunity lies. And one of the problems with the industry, construction industry, and the logistics industry is that the former President AMLO hated real estate people and didn't allow any permits. So these guys are at max capacity. They have massive amounts still today, a lot of demand, but there's no ability to build, or there wasn't. And one of the other problems was workers. They couldn't build home. AMLO hated the home building industry beyond belief, gave them no capital, nowhere to build. So now with this new president, I suspect we're going to see more residential building, which will bring workers, which will be able to alleviate the labor shortages. And these logistics developers along the border, and Prologis does most of her business along the border, are going to have a boom, an absolute boom. And by the way, as you can see, this is in dollar terms. These things haven't moved. Okay, very, very interesting. Finally, I'm not recommending any of these companies. Here's Cemex. This is again the largest cement producer in Mexico. By default, cement producers should do well if development rebounds, which it probably should. So another opportunity. But the bottom line is that if you've been to the border, I have been to the border, to Mexicali, Tijuana. I've been to those cities again prior to the pandemic, and these are places where, from a Mexico standpoint, business is good, or business was good. They do depend a lot on the U.S. They do depend on people going back and forth, and people do go back and forth. I don't think the immigration issue is with Mexicans per se. It's with obviously other people around the world. Very minute amount of Mexican illegal migration. So the border towns are there. There's infrastructure there. There's going to be a boom in Tijuana and Mexicali and across the border. I think the other thing that's going to happen is a reduction in crime. As I mentioned, the cartels. There's a war on the cartels right now, and the U.S. is involved in that war quietly. It's a covert war, and just like the U.S. helped Colombia win the war, Mexico's going to win the war, and that whole northern region in Mexico is going to be amazing. So at the end of the day, all this stuff that's going on with Trump and the tariffs and China and the EU talking back and forth, it's all garbage. It's a sideshow. Look through it and find your winners and losers. The big winner here is Latin America, and within Latin America, Mexico by far. So if you're not, I assume a lot of you don't have a lot of exposure to Mexico. I've been investing in Mexico for 30 plus years, so I'm a little bit more comfortable with the risk. But there is a lot of risk, right? The currency is a big risk. Political risk. There's always a lot of risk. But where there's risk, there are rewards. And you have to look at what's priced in, right? So let's say on a Wall Street terminology, what's priced in is nothing. There's nothing priced in terms of positive momentum for Mexico. Not at all. So that's a good thing. In the US, everything was priced in. The best scenario has been priced in for years, but no one cared, especially in 2024. Just a ridiculous amount of liquidity and other things that were manipulating the markets. And now things are, and by the way, I mean, these congressmen and senators talking about the U.S. odds down to 2,000 points. This is a joke. This is a joke. S&P's just now at support levels. Hasn't broken support. I mean, NASDAQ has, and placed, individual stocks have. But again, like I told you, these indexes are a waste of time. Anyway, doesn't matter. Mexico doing well. If you're an investor and you have a little risk to take outside of the U.S. with your money, I recommend emerging markets, specifically Latin America, and beyond that, specifically Mexico. And there's plenty of ADRs, there's ETFs, and that's what I would probably focus on. Even though they're not a sponsor here, but I would think places like Charles Schwab, and there are plenty of other brokers that allow you to buy local shares in Mexico and have been open to buying local shares in Mexico for many, many years. So no matter what you do, whether it's get exposure to Mexico or stick with the U.S. in bonds, hopefully, be very careful out there.